What is up, guys? My name is Baker Shields. I'm your host of the BAMNCast, where it's my goal to help you to learn, grow, and evolve by any means necessary. Today's episode number 22, I am joined by me. I'm doing a solo episode today. We're going to go ahead and recap my top 10 biggest takeaways from the podcast so far. We just surpassed the 21 episode mark, which some of you might have seen on my other social medias. That is considered a big mark in the podcasting world because, funny enough, studies show, or I guess statistics show, that 97% of podcasts, I believe is the number, don't make it past episode 3. 99% of podcasts don't make it past episode 20. Okay, so technically we entered the top 1% of podcasts last week simply by just putting out a 21st episode, which is crazy, right? Now, we're still growing. We have a really, really, really long way to go. It's been very slow so far, but it's been an absolute blast. So I wanted to kind of hit on that and the difference that kind of going into not giving up and just pursuing forward can get into. But before we get into that and all the takeaways that I have for you guys, I actually just walked in the door. We landed an hour ago in DFW, and we just got back from a trip. Me, Kinsey, my wife, and Addie, my sister, both have been on the podcast. Both have been on recent episodes. We just landed. We just got back from a 6-day trip or 5-day trip to Orlando, Florida for Coaching Con. So Mike and I, my partner in ARfunnel.io, flew the whole team out, and then we also flew out Addie and Kinsey for the BAM Coalition, which is kind of where the podcast got its namesake. We flew everybody out for Coaching Con, and we went to the event together. So we had all 10 people in an Airbnb together, which was a blast. Got to meet several members of the team for the first time, and first time in person, I should say. And it was an absolute blast. We got to learn a lot. We got to hang out. We got to bond. We got to go to some fun dinners. Specifically last night, we went to an awesome Mexican restaurant that we hadn't been to before, not in the touristy part of Orlando, is what our Uber driver told us. So it makes sense that we would have fun there. Overall, the event was an absolute blast because of the connection aspect and because of the networking aspect. We got a lot of good stuff that I'm hoping that we can implement inside of both BAM and AR shortly. So I'll keep you guys updated on that. But I just wanted to say that taking trips like that and taking risks, although financially, right, we spend a ton of money, especially on the AR side, just making sure that everyone's taken care of, making sure that nobody had to stress about anything and they could just go and have fun and kind of let loose a little bit. Events like that just seem to bring people together, right? And I kind of started to see that towards the end of the trip. I kind of started to see, Felicity, who's kind of our AR onboarding ninja, and Mateo, who does a lot of our appointment setting and sales and triage calls. They all kind of started to lean in together by the end of the trip, and specifically by yesterday. Everybody was everyone was a lot closer, and you could tell a more solid bond had kind of been built from the team. And it was so cool to just see everybody start to really act like more of a family and kind of have each other's backs and care about each other. And it was just really, really, really cool to see that dynamic in person. So if you're looking for an excuse to go to an event, if you're looking for an excuse to take a chance or invest in something that might not have as much of a tangible payoff, but also could have an emotional or physiological payoff just in terms of just building better bonds with the people around you, whether that's your spouse, whether that's your team, whether that's a coworker, or anybody else. If you're looking for a sign to do something like that, 100% take that chance because it is going to be well worth it. I have no doubt inside of our businesses as well. Now, without further ado, let's get into my top 10 takeaways so far. Okay. All right. Number 1, you can't lose if you don't give up. This was a theme of several of our episodes. So Dalton Musselwhite, episode 9, Kevin Wilhite, episode 5, Alfonso Lopez, episode 4. All of them talked about the power of just not giving up. Alfonso lost over 100 pounds on his weight loss journey and has been instrumental in the rise of several companies in the fitness space, in the fitness industry, whether that's in nutrition or clothing or supplements or food. He has been instrumental in several different companies on their rise in the industry. And it's really from not giving up, because as we know, the startup phase of businesses is extremely tough. That's been a theme along several of our episodes as well. So we hit on it pretty hard in that episode. Kevin Wilhite, he spent his entire decade of his 20s building his supplement stores now chain, right? Triad Fitness Supplements and Nutrition. Kevin has dedicated an entire decade of his life, right? A third of his life to building that dream. Something that he went into a lot of debt with two partners who are no longer involved in the business to have it come to fruition. And he stuck it out longer than everybody else. And now he's starting to reap the rewards of it, right? He didn't give up in his journey either. Dalton lost, I believe, over 300 pounds on his route from going from 500 plus to now right at around 200 and even sub 200 for a show where he won a bodybuilding competition and looked absolutely insane. That episode was a great one. You can see even on the cover of that episode, his insane transformation, how lean he got for his bodybuilding show. Big win at Summer Shredding, but also a fantastic example of just not giving up. And to echo the theme from the very beginning of this podcast, where we talked about, all I did was just publish 21 episodes of a podcast, right? I didn't say anything about numbers. Our numbers for the most part have been relatively small. It's growing, right? But it's been small up to this point. But all I did was publish 21 episodes, and that technically puts me in the top 1% of podcasts, just because I was willing to outlast other people, right? Willing to eat a little bit more shit, right? Because before the payoff comes, because I believe that the payoff's going to come. So I'm willing to continue to risk this time, willing to get in at noon on a Sunday after 5 or 6 days of very, very, very little recovery, very little sleep. I just got a Whoop band. My recovery score today, 14%. Okay. But we walked in the door 10 minutes ago. I knew that if I settled down and I kind of started to rest, I wasn't going to be able to get to this podcast episode and be able to film it. So everybody else is unpacking and getting some food, which is very smart. I'm very hungry. I cracked some caffeine and came and sat down over here so that I can deliver an episode for you guys today. All I have done to get into that 1% realm is just continue to go, right? Chris Williamson talks about a lot on his podcast. He published his first 300, 400, 500 episodes without anyone caring. And the show grew more from episodes I think it was 550 to 600 than it did in the first 500 episodes combined. And now in 2024, he's already grown more than he did in the first 4 years of the show combined. And it's April. So not giving up, the power of just continuing to go. We just had Ed Milet talk at the coaching con event that we were at. The power of one more. Can you go one more day? Can you make one more podcast? Right. And then when you make this one, can I do one more next week? Can I do one more the week after that? But all I got to do is focus on getting this one episode out. All you have to do is focus on getting to that next workout, right? And getting to that next meeting, getting that next sale. Can you do one more? And then just keep replicating that. So that's takeaway number 1. Number 2, the coma letter. Very, very, very positive feedback from this concept. This is from Jared Hamilton, episode 8. The coma letter is essentially a concept. If you want to go super deep in it, I highly encourage you to go listen to that episode. That's one of kind of the fan favorites so far. If I could say I had any friends, that's my friends and family that have listened to that episode. That's been one of their favorites so far. The coma letter is this concept that Jared Hamilton came up with. Got to spend a lot of time with him this past weekend at Coaching Con. He spoke a couple of times on stage. Dude is an absolute killer, and he's got 300 plus episodes of his own podcast, Dieting from the Inside Out. Fantastic coaching company, great client of AR's as well. he has this concept called the coma letter because he was realizing that his clients, he was having them try to create an identity shift because you can't just make a change and then stick with it with just being the same old person whenever it comes time to go into weight loss. If you've always been a binger, if you've always been a yo-yo dieter, if you've always struggled with all these different things, and then all of a sudden you just are said, hey, someone tells you, hey, switch up your identity, do something different now, you're going to be fit. How do you actually tangibly make that switch? Because it's hard for a lot of people to step into, I am the person that does this now, right? I'm the person that eats healthy or does my cardio or doesn't grab the extra scoop of peanut butter out of the jar. And so he came up with this concept to actually just mentally make that switch happen. And it's called the coma letter. The coma letter essentially is a situation. He tells the client, picture this, you're walking into a surgery, okay? You find out there's something going on in your head, right? Maybe it's a tumor that the doctor's got to remove. You're going to live through it. And we know that you're going to live through it and it's going to be relatively easy to get out. But the catch is the doctor said there's a 50-50 chance that he's going to hit the reset button when it gets in there and goes to get it out. So what he asks you to do, what the doctor asks you to do is write a letter to yourself, telling yourself who you are so that you can hear it from you when you wake up and other people don't have to try to convince you of it, because you're going to trust yourself a whole lot more than you trust these other people when you wake up if you don't have any idea what's going on. So you got to write a letter to yourself telling yourself who you are. You have 30 minutes to do so and then go, right? Write the letter. Now, what Jared says is, and this is kind of his famous line, is, I don't know about you, but if I'm writing that letter, I'm not going to write down that I struggle with binging. I have a bad relationship with my family. I'm not a great dad. I yo-yo diet a lot. I've been trying to lose the same 10 pounds for 3 years now, and all these different things, right? I'm broke. And you wouldn't write down all those things. He's like, I don't know about you guys, but I would write down, you're a millionaire. You just had a bad month and you donate a lot of it and then you donated the rest of it to charity. I'm jacked. I'm ripped, right? Like, I've just been in this coma for a while and I just woke up. And he just is like all these positive things. Like, I'm a great dad. Everyone comes to me for advice because I just help people and that's all I care about. I'm very selfless. And he's just like listing off all these things that if you really got the chance to kind of manipulate yourself and tell you who you are, what would that version of yourself look like? Because that's who you are really meant to be. That's who you're meant to step into. So if you're trying to make an identity shift, try the exercise of the coma letter, right? Step into that new identity. And then once you write that, boom, okay, let's act like that reset button got hit. And now you're this person that you wrote down on this letter. Very, very, very powerful concept. And it's the reason that Jared's been as successful as he's been in everything that he touches. Takeaway number 3. Overcoming imposter syndrome. This is something that Addie and I have talked about on several of our episodes, but most recently on episode 20 of the BAMCast. The most important thing I think from this conversation was we talked about Alex Hormozi's concept of building a stack of undeniable proof, right? Imposter syndrome, my my take on imposter syndrome is that people oftentimes are delaying the steps that they know that they need to take to step into who they really are. Okay, and I think that creates paralysis analysis, and that creates imposter syndrome. Because if you're delaying it, right, and you're trying to think of all the different ways that you can start, and you're trying to just make it sure everything is a perfect environment, then you're not actually doing the work that it takes to step into who you are. If you're not doing the work to be who you say that you are or who you want to be, that's where imposter syndrome creeps in. Because you truly are being an imposter of what you're saying that you want or who you're saying that you want to become. So what Alex Hormozi says is that you have to have a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are, right? You have to have all of this evidence logged internally, right? It can be external too. You can have accolades and awards and achievements and all these other things, but you have to have a stack of undeniable proof that you are who you say you are in order for you to truly believe that you're that person. I made a post last week on Instagram that there's a few opportunities in life where you get a chance to actually prove you are who you say you are. And if you don't take those opportunities to do so, then you're not. All right. If you are looking for those opportunities, seize them, because they don't come around all that often. When you get a chance to prove it, make sure that you take that chance and you prove it, because that's the way to continually cast those votes towards that person that you're trying to become. That's the way that you can always be moving towards that end goal that you truly have in your mind. And if you don't have an end goal in your mind, I highly encourage you to put pen to paper and figure out overarchingly, what am I moving towards? Okay. The people that I talk to that feel like they're spinning their wheels, the people that I talk to that I worry about, right, in my network, in my friends and my family, that don't seem super happy, and they don't seem like they're trying to do a whole lot in life, in this game we call life. They don't have a goal that they're moving towards. And I made this example in a couple of episodes before, but there's a reason that most older adults start aging extremely rapidly the second that they retire. That reason is because they are no longer doing anything to keep their mind fresh, to keep their mind and body letting them know, like, we've got to be good, we've got to stay young, we've got to stay healthy, we've got to keep this person going, because we have to be able to perform. We have to be able to achieve. We have to be able to get to this place on time. We have to be able to, remain valuable at this place so that we don't get let go. The second that a lot of people retire, they abandon all sense of responsibility everywhere. And a lot of times they'll age extremely fast because their purpose and their goal is no longer there. Right? And even if they hadn't liked that job a whole lot, at least having something, somewhere to be, something to do, something to keep them stimulated and just going is extremely important. So if you want to keep your mind, keep your body, keep everything in shape to its peak capacity, you have to have a goal that you're aiming towards at all times, whether you believe in manifestation or not. Having some sort of big goal in your mind activates what's called your RAS, your reticular activation system, and it keeps your brain subconsciously looking for opportunities to get to that thing. So although it might not be direct manifestation, it does subconsciously help your mind and body look for opportunities to get you to that spot, because you have told it, hey, look for this now. So having a goal will keep you on track and will keep you pushing towards things, even when you don't feel like you should be pushing towards them, or when you don't feel like you want to. That was number 3. Number 4, the inner child. This is something that Chad Mathis and I talked about in episode 5, and Jared and I talked about a little bit in episode 8 as well. Chad has talked about, he's really tried to lean in recently to his inner child, doing things like I think he bought an old Game Boy, one of those clear ones that is like the little handheld one that's been around for decades and decades, since we were all really little kids. Jared and I talked more about the nurture of your inner child, and that little inner child inside of your subconscious or your mind, that he works on a lot inside of therapy, that he kind of recommends you almost like separate that being or that entity, the inner child from your kind of like main brain, and make it its own thing that you can kind of name and tame. So if you guys remember from that episode, we talked about, in order for you to be able to deal with emotions and overcome them, you have to name it to be able to tame it. So if you can give your inner child a name, right, like little Jared, for example, then you can actually understand when that inner child is creeping up and coming in because of the things that you might have dealt with in your childhood, and be able to acknowledge, like, that's my childhood trauma. That's little Jared coming out now. I need to be able to deal with this and nurture him, because this isn't really a spot for him to come out. Okay. And with Chad, he was realizing that he was getting into too much of a grind mode and forgetting to actually have fun still. That's something that I really aligned with, because that's something that I struggle with, is still having fun. And yeah, I like to crack the jokes. I like to try and be funny and get people to laugh and stuff. But the fun parts are the little dumb things that you do, like playing a video game, like going out and playing a sport. Like on the trip, me and Mateo, one of our employees with AR Funnel, we had a vertical leap competition. Just little stupid things like that just can kind of keep you young and keep you thinking about life through that just fun, innocent lens that children look at it through, because that's kind of how we're meant to live. We're not meant to just be in this hyperachieve, hyper serious, hyper stressful environment that we kind of live in day to day all the time. Number 5, if everyone else was removed from the pictures, this is from Brad Bromlow, episode 18, I believe. Brad had this amazing reframe for trying to essentially check your ego at the door. He brought up this question that he likes to ask of himself or his friends whenever they are coming to a decision that might be monetary, it might be a lifestyle decision. Essentially what it is if everyone else was removed from the picture outside of just like maybe your spouse and your kids, what would you want your life to look like? What would you prioritize spending on? Would you still care about having that watch? If no one outside of your child and wife or child and spouse were going to see that, would you still care about that car, that house, right? The clothes, the jewelry? Probably not. And I think that's the answer for most of us. Now, some people out there, I've met some people who are genuine car people, and that is a big part of just building that into their life. That's totally cool. You might be a genuine watch guy, right? But what I think a lot of us end up doing, and myself included, this really hit me because I do think about things like that. I think about, what I want to wear the watch eventually because I want people to look at me and think like, oh, that guy's made it. He's done something, or I want to have the best technology or office or place because I want people to, I want to be acknowledged. And then that's something I've always struggled with is the pride or the ego side of things. And if you've listened to multiple episodes, you know that's something that I talk about quite frequently. But I really, really love that reframe from Brad because it does help for you to check that ego at the door and check that pride at the door and show up as a more authentic version of you. Because if you can really figure out what that version of your life looks like and what you actually want out of that version of your life, the options end up becoming so much more clear because then now you're just moving towards that. It's the simplest, most purest, most fulfilling version of your life rather than bringing in all of these external factors that just get thrown in there and ruin, right, what you're actually trying to build. They just get in the way. They're distractions from the vision that you really would be fulfilled by if you implemented his reframe. Number 6, no matter what you do to your body externally to fortify it and make it better and make it stronger or performing better, the real battle will always be between your ears. That's something that I pulled from Sean Vasquez's episode number 10. Sean was somebody that grew up and was abused physically, emotionally, sexually as a kid for a long period of his life and got taken advantage of by several people that he should have been able to hide behind and be protected by. And Sean, in his teenage and early 20s and early 30s, Sean hid behind the world of bodybuilding in order to try and get as big and as scary and as strong as possible externally so that he could hide all the turmoil and hurt and pain of, like we just talked about, his inner child on the inside. And Sean found that as he continued to do that, he never got happier. He was winning bodybuilding shows. He was going pro and all these different things. He never got fulfillment from achieving everything that he set out to achieve in the bodybuilding world. Where he really got his fulfillment was by being a good dad to his now 2 kids, to being a good husband to his wife, Jessica. And he has done so much inner work just since I met him 4 years ago now, almost 5 years ago. Actually, it was 5 years ago whenever he and I first met. This man has done a complete 360 in his life in terms of just how he deals with things and how he emotionally names and tames things and how he shows up as a role model, as a father, and as a husband. Several of our first guests that I talked to on the show all mentioned Sean as the role model or the person that they look to in terms of the model of being a great dad and a great entrepreneur, being a great husband and a great entrepreneur. And if you'd known where Sean started out, which we go into pretty deeply inside of that episode number 10, that was not the case a decade ago. That was not the case 2 decades ago. And so it's important for us to remember, obviously, doing all the physical work is extremely beneficial, right? It can help you to develop mentally quite a bit by pushing yourself beyond your boundaries physically. That will inevitably harden your mind as well to be able to go further there as well. But if you never address the things that need to be worked out inside of your mind, the things that need to be addressed inside of your mind, you'll only be as strong as your weakest link. So if your mentality and your mind are your weakest link, that will always hold you back until you finally start to address it. In episode number 11, Brady Oki and I talked about inner greatness. Now, you guys have probably heard this talk before because I do mention it quite a bit on the podcast, but inner greatness and Brady's concept of inner greatness is extremely similar to what I'm always talking about with, I believe that every person on earth was given a gift. It's a God-given gift. That's something that they are better at, something that comes easier to them than every other person. Right? I believe everybody has something like that. And I believe that's from a business perspective, it should be monetarily rewarded as a trait because it is different and it's something unique that you bring to the market. Brady is extremely big on inner greatness and just the same concept, but especially physically, what every person has some sort of inner greatness in them, and in terms of things that they can push themselves to do that are outside the norm, right? So him inside of his company, Team Tua, right, or his brand Tua, and his coaching company Team Tua. They're on the Tua retreat, and Brady will probably never see this or never hear this, but they're doing a really awesome retreat in Phoenix, Arizona, where they have brought out a ton of their athletes and people that just wanted to be a part of the community. And I think they're doing an ultra, like an ultra marathon, crazy. And they're doing team workouts, they're doing cold plunges, and just going out there to be uncommon, which is the tagline of that company. And so pushing yourself physically leads to that inner greatness coming out mentally, which is kind of the theme of these takeaways so far. And Brady is extremely big on that idea of inner greatness. So if you listen to that episode, you'll know that the theme of that episode is just trusting that you too have inner greatness, whether you realize it or not. So if you're willing to go looking for it, you will find it. But you're going to have to go to some dark places. You're going to have to push yourself. You're going to have to really grind in order to bring it out. But it's there. You just got to dig for it. Number 8, men's mental challenges in 2024. There's a lot that goes into this one. Expectations of us as men, especially young men, women, masculinity, and the kind of issues of toxic masculinity and things that are kind of work. There's a lot that we as men are up against in 2024. Brandon Grew and I talked about this in episode 14. Now, I posted on Instagram about this a couple of weeks ago. I believe that a good chunk of the problem with men nowadays is that we have access to girls, food, video games, social media, all these things at the press of a button in the worst ways, right? Pornography and all of these different ways that we can kind of consume all of these things at the press of a button at any time, day or night, right? There's no, you're not having to go out there into the dating market and work to find a girl, right? You're not having to go out there and, we're not hunting for our food anymore. Not that I've ever hunted for my food in my life, but to kind of equate a similar concept there, right? You can just DoorDash it straight to your door, whatever you want, whatever you can think of. Especially here in Dallas, I can have anything here in 15 minutes. And I think that as men, we were meant to go out there and conquer, right? We were meant to go out there and hunt for things, not necessarily just animals, but just hunt for, achievement, hunt for accomplishments, hunt for, things that would bring us fulfillment. And that's kind of what we're meant to do. And that's our role here on earth. And I truly believe that. And so when a lot of these things are extremely easy to acquire in today's day and age, I think that it pacifies men. And another problem that you end up running into is that whenever you don't have those things that give you value and you're not working towards something, you don't have a goal that you're pushing towards as a man, right? That you're trying to accomplish or conquer. You place your value in how many women like me, right? How am I received in the dating market? And if you have no women like you and you don't have anybody that's interested in you, and you also don't know how to go out there and pursue and find somebody that you're the person or the partner that you're looking for, then you just sit there and believe that I don't have any worth because I'm not achieving the things that I'm doing, or I don't have anything that I'm pushing for or doing or kind of like going for in terms of conquering and achievement. And I also don't have any worth because nobody is pursuing me, right? I don't have any suitors that are coming after me, and anybody that's interested in me. And so then it becomes the question and the pain of, why does no one want me? And I think what a lot of young men, they aren't getting the pursuit that they want, and they're not getting the attention that they want because they're not working on that big overarching goal. So men our age, right, like late teens, early 20s, mid 20s, even late 20s now, the dating market is kind of extending that way. You have to find a mission or a worthwhile cause that you're willing to pursue and just endeavor upon, because that will attract the people and the things that you're wanting to attract, right? That's the route to maybe the money that you feel like you need. That's the route to the fulfillment that you need. That's the route to attracting the attention of the type of woman that you want to attract. And if you don't have a path that you're on, it could be getting into the best shape of your life. It could be building a business or building a bigger business. If you don't have something that you're working on, it could be a project or a hobby. People don't have something, especially a woman does not have something to latch themselves onto to be interested in, right? And I've given this example before. When Kinsey and I first met, or first kind of like started romantically, I guess, meeting, I was working every day as a personal trainer from like 5 to 7 a.m. I had gotten approached about a full-time job. I was also in full-time school. Keep that in mind. I had gotten approached to run marketing for a bunch of brands in the supplement industry, and I took that on. So after the gym, I would go home, shower, straight to work at an office, right? For either, if I didn't have any class, 8 to 10 hours that day. If I did have class, then I'll be able to leave for class to go do my full course load. I'd go, to class for an hour or two and then come right back to work. At the end of the day, after work, I would go back to the gym and either hit my session or train more people from 5 to 7 p.m. And then after that, I would go home and fulfill orders from my, at the time, new equipment company, Upora Fitness. And then I would make time to hang out with Kinsey or do something social or do my homework. And so I had a lot going on at the time, and Kinsey was very transparent with me. That was what attracted her to me. That was like the biggest box that she wanted to check on the list of things that she was looking for in a man, is somebody that is achievement driven and that is working hard towards something bigger in life. Right. And I had been, trust me, I had been in the spots that maybe some of you are feeling, where I felt like I got a lot of value. I don't know why people aren't pursuing me. Why? And that's just, again, ego, pride, all of those things that we all have built into us as men, just speaking. And it was whenever I actually got on a tough road, right? The lonely road, as Ed Milet called it this past weekend. I took the lonely road by myself and put myself on an absolute war path towards trying to go for more in life. And that is what brought the type of people around me that I wanted. That's what brought the opportunities to me that I wanted. That's what brought my wife now to me that I wanted. So I think all of us as men, that's one of the biggest challenges we're up against, is too easy of access to everything and not having a mission or a goal or a hobby or a project that you're working towards. You can start small. It can be something very, very, very small, very simple, like going to the gym more. And that can be your thing. You'll be surprised how many girls just want a guy that wants to take care of themselves long term, right? But you can also start big. You can dream big and you can go for it. And I promise you, people will notice. And the people that you've been wanting to surround yourself with this entire time will start to take notice, and they will follow suit, right? They'll want to be a part of your journey, and they'll want to watch it from close proximity. Number 9, the concept of marriage check-ins. This one was from Kinsey and I's episode, my wife, Kinsey and I's episode on episode number 19. And this concept in particular, there's a lot of different helpful things that I think that, well, maybe would be helpful if you're in a relationship, whether it's marriage or you're engaged or you're dating, right? Or even just starting to kind of talk with somebody. These things can be extremely beneficial from the start of your relationship. And I wish we had implemented it very early on in ours, though we really waited until we got married to kind of do so. So marriage check-ins is a concept that we do every single month. Her and I, usually it's when we're doing a walk together on a trail or outdoors or something like that, and it's on a weekend. Well, one of us will just kind of bring it up. I had the idea to start marriage check-ins. And what that is while we're walking or while we're doing something, it's not whenever I'm angry. It's not whenever I've got a bone to pick. Same thing for her. We just bring up, hey, how am I doing? Right? How am I doing as your spouse? What do you need more of from me? And it's not coming from emotions. It's literally just something like you would check in with a client if you were a fitness coach. It's something that just happens. It has to happen every single month for us to continue on. And we just do a non-emotional check-in. Now, sometimes they can get emotional if something comes up that might strike a chord with somebody, and that's okay. But it's just, how am I doing? What can I do better? Right? How can I be a better husband for you? And that has allowed us to really be transparent with each other on what each other needs and how each person is feeling. Because what I might find out is that she needs something, me to give her more attention, for example, or me to take her on more dates. And I might be thinking in my head, and whenever she brings that up, I might be like, oh, well, I thought we were trying to save money this month, or I thought that maybe you need a little bit extra space because we just went on, and did XYZ together that I just wanted to make sure that I wasn't smothering you. It can bring up those conversations, and then all of a sudden now you understand where the other person's coming from. And the same thing vice versa, right? Like she might bring up something, or I might bring up something to her that she was justifying or handling in a certain way because she thought that's what I wanted instead. So now at least we're on the same page and we can actually overcome this together in a non-emotionally charged conversation. Last, but certainly not least, number 10 of my top 10 takeaways of my first 21 episodes was the power of persistence. Ashley Conrad and I talked about that in episode 16, and Jennifer Barker and Bradley Goldman, they're engaged now. So they'll be the Goldmans here before too long. In episode 13, we talked about that as well. Ashley's somebody that has been a lifelong athlete and trainer and just student of physical movement, really. Ashley's been through a lot of different iterations in her career through USC basketball. She played D1 basketball. She was a runner even as a young child. She went she hit rock bottom actually and gained a bunch of weight, and all of a sudden had to turn around and lose all of that. She got a job at a gym in LA Fitness in Hollywood. She started training celebrities, right? She started with family members of celebrities, then worked her way into celebrities, going on tour with people and different artists, trained Bradley Cooper, Kate Hudson, Penelope Cruz, tons of different people inside of Hollywood, and just became an absolute student of the game and became really a master of the game as well. But her career went through several iterations from, athlete to coaching in commercial gym to celebrity trainer specializing in extreme transformations quickly for roles or tours or, movie castings, auditions, things like that, to then becoming the face basically and leading one of the top supplement brands on bodybuilding.com, and to become the face of Adidas boxing. And now she's looping all the way back to online coaching and breaking into the online coaching space, both on a boutique level, right? Selling like high level one-on-one coaching, and selling to just, you or me that might need help and guidance, that might not also be able to afford the celebrity level stuff as well. So Ashley has been persistent in her goal her entire life, minus that one setback back in college. And she talks about it inside the episode. It's a fantastic story. I hope you guys will take the time to listen to it if you haven't already. But she has been grinding at this goal of just helping and impacting more people in health and fitness for so long now. And she's done it on a scale of tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, and even probably millions of people at this point through her impact in bodybuilding.com and through the brand Adidas, as you guys can imagine, touring the world. Jennifer and Bradley, they talk about persistence inside of their business, right? staying persistent with growing the business, and even across all the setbacks that COVID brought, which forced Bradley to close down his gym, and through all the hardships that both of their marriages ending and then finding each other, and then all the things that they've kind of been along on their journey, taking between 1 and 3 flights a week usually, because they have different children from different marriages on different sides of the country and different custody schedules, and they're constantly flying back and forth, one flying to go be with the other while they're with their kid, the other flying to go be with the other while they're with their kid. Their persistence both in business, having a comeback year last year from down like 30% in their business to being up 3%, and working with us at AR Funnel, to doing all of that to just stay present in each other's lives and in each other's kids' lives. It's extremely inspiring to just kind of see the things that they're doing inside their relationship, inside their business, to just remain persistent and show up every single day. And as we discussed with point number 1, you cannot lose if you simply don't give up, which is extremely inspiring for all of us if you can just understand that simple fact of nature. Those are my 10 takeaways, guys. My last takeaway really is just the I guess gratefulness. I am so thankful for this platform. I'm so thankful for all of you guys that are listening. I know it's small. I know the production and everything is I'm trying to continually make it better. I know that it's coming slowly, but I'm extremely grateful because I truly am just enjoying it. As one of the conversations we were just having out there is, can't you just take a break this week? Like, people aren't going to be mad. And I'm like, yeah, I understand that, but there are a few people that are listening to this every week at this point, and I don't want to let those people down. And I also don't want to let myself down, just in what we've talked about really today on today's podcast. Is I don't want to come across like I'm giving up. I committed to this 1 a week thing. I'm sure there will be weeks where we either take a break or we move the episode back a day like we did for Christmas and stuff. But I want to do as much as I can, because I feel like if I can just provide one little tidbit of value for somebody each episode, that's more than enough to make me feel extremely grateful and extremely fulfilled in doing this project every single week. So no matter what it ends up becoming, that's kind of just the goal with the podcast. So if you guys got anything out of this episode, it would mean a lot to me to have you follow the show if you're listening to it on any type of audio platform. It'll be especially a lot to me if you would subscribe to the show on YouTube or to my YouTube channel. I've been putting out vlogs. I've been putting out YouTube shorts. I've been trying to just kind of scale the YouTube platform for myself, and just I'm about to finish recording a vlog from the Orlando trip that we just went on as well. So, not slowing down, guys. I'm not taking any breaks. I'm trying to pump everything out and do as much as I can to provide as much value as I can. And I hope you guys enjoy it. Always reach out if you do have anything that you really enjoyed, or anything that you would like to recommend to me or give me some feedback on, or if there's a person that you want me to have on the show. I've got some more guests planned and coming up, but I would love to have them on. So recommend me people as well. I'm always looking for new guests and new perspectives. If you want to support me or any of my businesses on a deeper level, we've got Eubora Fitness, which is the fitness equipment company that I own. We've got the BAM Coalition, which is the coaching company that Addison, my sister, and I co-own together, that's impacting hundreds of lives each and every day with the power of health and fitness. And then we've got AR Funnel, which is Mike and I's company that helps fitness coaches to launch, scale, and just take their business to the next level inside the health and fitness space as far as coaching. So got a lot of things going on. All of it can be found inside of the description of this video. And like I said, guys, so grateful, so thankful for all of you. I am going to either take a nap or crush some more caffeine, and I will see you guys in the next episode.